Hi guys, welcome to the 10th edition of the Quarter Point podcast. Today we honor a very special guest, a legend of the game. He turns 85 today. His name is Garfield Sobers, the outstanding West Indies all-rounder of the 50s, 60s and early 70s. So it's truly a privilege for us to speak about this great gentleman today. And with me is none other than my compatriot, my friend, my buddy Dave Tyagi, who was a diehard West Indian fan. And over to him to throw some light on Sir Garfield Sobers.
The only thing I can say on an icon of the sport as great as Sobers is that it's quite sobering to run into the kind of statistical skyscrapers he built in a 2-decade career,
So
where
Dave,
he
before we
played.
get into the statistics, just how does it feel to talk about Sir Garfield Sobers? Did you ever think that we could be doing a podcast on this great man?
Never did I ever imagine in my life, as a young man, that one day I would actually be recording a podcast. That too on the man against whose performances the benchmark of all-round brilliance is judged and gauged. And so it's an absolute privilege. It's an absolute privilege to record every podcast with you and to do a podcast on the sport itself. But when it comes to subjects like Sir Garfield Sobers, it humbles me to think that how on earth did this gentleman achieve all that he did? 25,000 plus first class runs,
28,000
1,000,
plus.
yeah, 1,000 plus first class wickets. Um, at a time where he just played 93 tests, could not even score 100 in test match appearances, and still ended up with a batting average of 57 plus, having scored 8,032 runs, having scored 26 centuries. And the interesting facet, one of the interesting facets of the many about this great distinguished gentleman is that the first four calendar years he went century less. 1954 is when he debuted in March. I think it was 30th March when he debuted at Kingston, Jamaica. Um, he went century less in the next year, then the next year, then the next year. And then in 1958, when he finally hit a century, he turned up 365 runs and a triple centurion for the West Indies, the first of his kind, broke a long-standing record of none other than Sir Wally Hammond, rather, if I'm unless I'm very much mistaken. And just imagine you don't score a century and then you turn up with a triple century. And in 1958 happens to be one of the great years of Sir Gary Sober's career, because it's a year where he amassed almost 1,300 calendar runs in Test match cricket, almost 1,300, and scored 6 Test centuries. So basically, a fourth of his career centuries came in the fifth year of him playing Test match cricket. 1958. That's just remarkable. It's bonkers.
It's phenomenal.
And
It's
and he was not even 18 fully when he made a debut into the test team, into that very test team, which sported the famous W's of cricket, Sir Frank Worrell, Sir Burton Weeks, Sir Clyde Walcott. Although I would want to ask you a question, and it's basically a puzzle. Do you know what batting position did he first come out to bat in his debut test?
I think I can answer that. It's number 9.
Wow, that's incredible. So you've done your homework on Sir Gary Sobers.
Yeah, I didn't do my homework on Indian cricket in the last podcast, but certainly on Gary Sobers.
Your grades are degrading. Your grades in Indian cricket are degrading.
But
But
viewers, I mean, just imagine the guy got a triple century in his against Pakistan 365, only to be broken 26 years later by none other than the icon, the person,
36
the
years later,
36 years, rather, 36 years later
three and
by
a half
the
decades, the record
three and
stood.
a half decades later by none other than Sir Brian Charles Lara, who himself is a West Indian. So, how befitting would it be that a person from Trinidad has broken the record of a person from Barbados. At least both are from the Caribbean islands. So it's truly fantastic. And
Phenomenal.
only while researching about the great man did at least I realized that he was the first triple centurion for the West Indies. I always thought it was Brian Lara. So that was very
Yeah,
refreshing for me at least.
yeah. And before Lara came on to do these amazing things, Sir Sobers also held a record for scoring highest individual runs from the batting position number three, uh, which Lara bettered, going 10 runs more in his 375 against England. But I think both batsmen have been distinguished hammerers of England. So 3,100 plus of his 8,000 test runs, when I'm talking about Sir Gary Sobers, came against England. And Lara made 375 and 400 against England. In the latter, of course, we all know he remained unbeaten. So I think the Barbadians and the Trinidadians have some fetish at cornering the Englishmen. But when it comes to Sir Gary Sobers, surely the bowling forces that he was up against weren't any less intimidating than than in any era. You had the great Australian Ray Windwall, Fred Turner. You had Bishan Singh Bedi himself.
Red
There were some
Truman of
amazing
England.
bowlers.
Yeah.
Dennis Lilly, of course, and
Red
yeah,
Truman of England. Yeah.
Jim Laker. There were so many. Tony Greig himself.
You know, they've talking about people who mounted more than 300 runs. Now, it's a very interesting question that I just happened to me right now. What's with left-handers and amassing scores consistently of 300 plus? Like there's the great Brian Charles Lara who's reached 400, he's reached 375. Matthew Hayden has reached 380. Sir Garfield Sobers is sitting on 365. David Warner recently, about 2 years back, scored 335 against Pakistan.
Sana
So
Jayasuriya made 340.
Sanat Jayasuriya made 340. So what's with these southpaws and their fascination to just keep batting, 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 and 300 is a minimum milestone they have to reach.
I think the fascination with the Southpaws is that they are hell bent on changing the destinies of bowlers, pushing them down south
Taking,
in their
yeah.
careers. So that's the only thing I can say. But what was really interesting, personally speaking, about Sir Sobers, and neither of us were actually born in that era.
We want an
I'm
idea
sure
also, yeah. So
we don't even have
one
the
is
idea. He was never regarded as an elegant stroke maker. He wasn't Brian Lara. He wasn't David Gar. He didn't have the flair of
Saurav
Saeed
Ganguly.
Anwar. Yeah, Saurav Ganguly, of course, the Lord of the Offside. But he changed and adapted to situations. These are the words of Sir Frank Worrell, under whose tutelage he grew up into being a great bowler also. Because let's not forget that Sir Gary Sobers started off as a slow left-arm orthodox bowler. Then he became a wrist spinner, and then as and when the team demanded, he changed his craft completely with absolute precision, becoming a handy left-arm medium pacer. So that was amazing, and he was also a fantastic close-in fielder who would patrol the cover point region, and a very very safe slip catcher. If you research.
You know, there's another interesting fact. Did you know that Sir Garfield Sobers is his average of 57 is the fifth highest for any batter going north of 5,000 runs? That's another
Wow.
very interesting fact. Yeah.
For that.
I'm
I
sure
know.
the Great Dawn is leading that chart, but Sir Garfield Sobers is on fifth there. So, and you know, Dave, just think about it. In today's era, a test average, a test batting average of 40, say early 40s, mid 40s, closer to the 50s is considered outstanding. But that gentleman in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s had a test match average of 57, and that too being an all rounder. The only person who springs to my mind with that sort of an average in modern day cricket is Jack Carlos.
Yeah.
He had an average of about 55. And Sir Garfield Sobers' bowling average was also not bad. It was 34. And he amassed
Yeah.
235 wickets, which is no mean feat. I mean,
And he
bowlers
went
these days,
1,000
if they
plus
reach
in first
200
class
test
cricket.
wickets, they feel
Yeah.
really blessed. This guy had 235 test wickets, man.
Well, imagine the current serving West Indian captain Craig Brathwaite's batting average. It's 32 in Test match cricket.
Does the entire team average 57 together?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because now you have the flair and firepower of Rakeem Cornwall.
No, no, I
And,
love the West Indies, man.
what is it?
I'm an Indian. I am born, I
You are
stay
a
in
West
West
Indian
India.
too.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain to our viewers how you are a West Indian too?
Guys, I am an Indian. I live in Bombay, which is the west of the country, makes me a West Indian. So I love the West Indies. Thank you.
Yes, yes. But anyone watching, don't ask Pranay which team he supports when India play West Indies. It's certainly South Africa. Yeah. Speaking of South Africa, so in 1972, the great innings at Melbourne, when Sir Garfield Sobers made 254 an innings, which none other than Sir Donald Bradman described as the greatest to have been played on Australian soil, happened at the behest of the cancellation of South Africa's tour to Australia, which is why at the
Unfortunately,
last
because South Africa entered isolation then. So,
yeah, which wasn't due to the coronavirus. Yeah, and
guys,
this
that
was
virus was even worse than the coronavirus. So let's not go.
yeah, and that was what a match that was, Pranay, because a World 11 featuring Tony Greig, Sir Sobers, Mr. Bishan Singh Bedi, Sir Gavaskar, and none other than Mr. Graham Pollock, the icon of South African
South
batting.
African cricket.
They were there, and Sir Gary Sobers was able to make not much of a difference with the bat in the first innings because he was dismissed for a not. He held on to the second or the first slip and without disturbing the scorers. And he did complain to Ian Chappell in the dressing room after the first innings was over that your boy Lilly, he bowls a lot of bouncers, but tell him that I can also do that. Then when Sir Garfield Sobers had the ball in his hand, and when Dennis Lilly was batting, before he rushed into Dennis Lilly, Mr. Tony Greig rushed into Mr. Sobers and said that, well, why don't you bowl at him? So Mr. Sobers said, bowl at him what? He said, you had said now that you wanted to bowl bouncers. That's your man, go at him. So he did bowl a couple of bouncers, which turned Mr. Dennis Lilly, the iconic Lilly, absolutely pink. Then he skied one very high in the air, which Mr. Bishan Singh Bedi caught. And without exchanging any words and just looking deep into the eyes of Dennis Lilly, Sir Sobers announced that, you know, what you can do, I can do too. And in the next innings, he created havoc with the bat, 254 blistering runs. Imagine a lineup which has the great Sir Sunny Gavaskar just standing in applaud and Sir Sobers doing all the destruction with the bat. So that's the kind of man Sir Sobers was. Utterly fearless.
So Dave, if we talk about all-rounders, say in the 50s, 60s and 70s era, do you see anyone else who could match the caliber of Sir Garfield Sobers? Like one name that comes to my mind is Sir Richie Benaud.
Yes, I forgot to mention his name. He was a very, very remarkable, worthy opponent to Sir Sobers, and he had great things to say about the Barbadian. I think
anyone else?
I can't really say, man. I don't think anybody touched the peaks. But if you talk about this era, certainly not Hardik Pandya.
I don't see anyone in present day in current cricket who could reach that help. But surely, say a guy like Jack Carlos or maybe to an extent Andrew Flintoff. But surely, in terms of batting, I would say Jack Carlos comes really close in terms of an average perspective. And you know, speaking about Sir Garfield Sobers, he scored 26 centuries and 30 half centuries. So imagine his conversion rate, yeah, which is north of 90s. Like every time he scored a century, there's more than a half century, there's more than a 90% chance that he would convert it.
That's the kind
I mean, yeah, that's phenomenal. Be a little louder.
Yeah, as rare as they come, the likes of
100%.
which we are never going to see again. But I do think that if the likes of Hardik Pandya continue to play sans injuries and continue to take wickets and make big runs, they may not reach a Sobers level, but who knows, they can touch Jack Callis level. And I say this in all seriousness. Uh, Also, the great Ben Stokes,
Yeah.
because he's leading a revolution in English cricket. His mere presence
In
on the field
fact,
inspires.
speaking about Ben Stokes, it's very interesting that he's the current holder of the Sir Garfield Sobers Award.
Wow. But who
So,
was the
yeah.
first holder of that award? Please tell us.
So, guys, the Garfield Sobers Award, rather the Sir Garfield Sobers Award, was started by the ICC in 2004. And it's quite interesting that Sir Sunil Gavaskar played a big role in getting that to the fore. And the first
Wow.
recipient of that award was none other than Rahul Dravid.
Yes.
So, and
Who's posing
I'm
right behind me? The place where that photo is hanging. That's Rahul Dravid right there, silently supporting our podcast. Hi, Wall. Hi.
and must I add that the second recipient was none other than Jack Callis. Obviously, he shared that award with Andrew Flintoff. And the third one was again a West Indian, Shivnarayan Chanderpaul. And then it was
Oh,
taken by Ricky Ponting on two consecutive occasions, and then so on and so forth. In fact, Virat Kohli also has the honor of holding this twice, and so does Mitchell Johnson, the Australian speedster.
wow,
So yeah,
wow.
Sachin Tendulkar also won this award in 2010. So it's
Sachin
been
Tendulkar
something.
also won
Yeah,
this.
and there are 56 people who come together to decide who should be that player or who should be the world player of the year. I mean, such is the magnitude of this award that it's being judged by 56 players, which includes
Do you
umpires
know?
also. So
Wow,
it's
wow,
phenomenal. Yeah.
wow. Do you know one of Gary Sobers' personal favorite innings of this recent era? You know, the era which he did not represent, the era after him, many years after him. It's actually the innings where Herschel Gibbs fired six consecutive sixes. And as a matter of
Against
fact, in
Holland.
the month,
That was
yes,
against
he loved
Holland in
that.
the 2007 World Cup. That's right.
Regardless of it being against Holland, he loved that effort. And the two distinguished gentlemen came together at St. Kitts in March of 2007 to raise $1 million for a charity they both support. It's called Habitat for Humanity. It's an American not for profit which works for underprivileged people and also looks after the area of human rights. It's a charitable organization supported by Sir Sobers and a great batsman from your favorite South African nation.
Yeah.
Uh, but you know
So
what's remarkable? I wanted to talk about Sir Sobers is 365. Is that here's a batsman whose highest
okay,
score.
one sec, Dave. Was he batting year long? Because he made 365. So
No.
365 days in a year. So he was batting that entire year.
He was batting for a couple of days only, and he emerged undefeated, having batted for 614 minutes. And most importantly, he entered the series at the back of a personal individual best score of 66. So prior to hitting a triple century, which was his first test century, his highest score was 66. That's the kind of man he was. I mean, it's just unfathomable the kind of stuff he has done. And
And make no mistake, the Pakistan attack wasn't like any run of the mill, man. I'm sure they had very good bowlers, the
they
likes
had
of
very
Hanif
good bowlers.
Mohammad.
There were legends. There were legendary batsmen like Hanif Mohammad and
Hanif Mohammad, the legendary batter. Yeah, that's right.
Fazal Mahmood and Wazir Mohammad and all these greats were there. But he was just unstoppable. And
Yeah,
one very interesting fact is that when Sir Garfield Sobers debuted for West Indies, having batted for position number 9, in that same match he entered the team which had the famous three Ws, who in that Test match were collectively able to make only 54 runs. Sir Frank Worrell made 4 of those. Sir Everton Weekes went back without troubling the scorers, but Clyde Walcott made a gritty 50, which he would follow up with 116 in the very next innings. And in the very next innings, Garfield Sobers would be unbeaten on 26. So he made 40 runs from his first test match. At an average of 40, not bad for a person who was inducted predominantly for his spinning talent.
You know, this reminds me of a young Steve Smith. He was also, when he joined the Australian team, he joined as a leg spinner. That's right.
Yeah.
And now he has a batting average of almost 60, man, if not higher. So,
61, yeah.
yeah, so cricket is so funny. You come in one discipline and then you become a master of the other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Dave, let me ask you that. So the great man just played a solitary ODI. Do you think if there was the limited over setup during his playing time was really active, would we see him excel in, say, ODIs also? Well, I don't want to bring T20s into the equation because I think he's too pure for that format. So let's keep that out. And I really thank the Almighty that there were no T20s that time. So if he would have played more ODIs, would you see him excelling?
Let me begin by sharing a quote which none other than the legendary Sir Frank Worrell happened to say in regards to Sir Sobers. He said that he's a player of infinite ability and talent, and he's a player who seamlessly adapts to situations. Now, going by that logic, I don't think it would have taken a great deal of effort for Sir Sobers to immediately spring into action because he was an attacking batsman. Let's not forget that he's a hit maker of six consecutive sixes. That too in his maiden county appearance. In
No
that
wonder he
season.
likes social Gibbs.
Yeah, no wonder, no wonder. So to answer your question, Pranay, I think he would have been a very solid ODI batsman, but I don't think ODIs would have been played that frequently in that era had they been introduced
There
that
would
early
be
on.
60 over matches also that time.
Yeah, so he would have probably ended somewhere with 2,000 to 3,000 ODI runs, not more. But this is me thinking aloud. But there was actually no end to the peaks that he could achieve. So it's one thing to be considered a good cricketer, another to be a great cricketer, something quite different to be a legend, and then something extremely different to be considered a benchmark for greatness against whom performances of other cricketers are judged. So when today
100%.
the Jack Callis is considered the greatest all-rounder, let's not forget he is considered the greatest all-rounder of his generation because the table topper of that era was Sir Garfield Sobers of Barbados.
100%. 100%. I mean, imagine ICC has an award in his name, so it can't get better than that.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think he retired in 1972, and just 3 years into his
74.
retirement, 74. Just
74.
1 year into his retirement, he was knighted there by Queen Elizabeth II. So imagine
Yes.
that's no mean feat there. How many
I
players
mean,
are immediately knighted after they're retired or almost during their playing time? So, and in
I think most
2009, he
players just
was inducted in the ICC Hall of Fame also.
yeah, I think most players just say good night to their careers rather prematurely because they fail to adapt to all formats. Because today cricket is becoming, apart from being highly commercialized, it's an exasperating challenge to play cricket and all three formats. The recurrence of these formats, like for example, this year we've already played England, India that is, and now we're already in England about to play 5 test matches, if
Yeah,
I'm not
India will
mistaken, five
play
or four.
England 9 times this year in Test cricket. That's right.
Wow. So that's that
Yeah.
that speaks of it. Ever could you ever imagine Garfield Sobers touring England and then playing England at home for
I don't
nine
think
or
he
ten?
would play 9 Test matches even in a gap of about 3 or 4 years also. But I was just thinking about the cricket that time, Dave. So there are 3 words that spring to my mind when I think about cricket in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. A purist paradise. Because Test cricket was at its pinnacle. Obviously, one day cricket started in the early 70s. You had the 75 World Cup. But, there was no commercial angle. It was just that you want to go there, you want to perform to your best, and you want to entertain and you want to take your country to victory. That's the way people saw it. There wasn't a money angle, there wasn't a social media angle, there wasn't XYZ angles, which honestly, at a point or at times, serve as a distraction.
I
So,
think, very well said. I think that time it
so
was about
scoring
creating a
in that
legacy.
time is like, it's mounting to another level in today's time. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. I think cricket of that era was about creating a legacy, and today's
100%.
cricket is about trying to match up to someone else's legacy.
I think
Because no
today it's
matter
also
how,
about creating a financial legacy. Let's be honest.
yeah, it is. It is because the commercial trappings of the sport are so strong that if you're given
Yeah.
opportunities to make a career, why not? You would go for it. For example,
And
many
people
people,
are retiring early from the longer format, yeah, just to play lucrative T20 leagues around the world. And if they
yeah,
can earn that much in a month's time, why would they toil for a year?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
been happening.
But there's another point of discussion I want to bring you in. So AB de Villiers is, with all due respect, called the
I was
360
thinking about him
degree.
only right now.
You were. So he's considered to be a 360-degree range cricketer, particularly for his batting. He's never been a bowler, right?
He
But
did
wasn't
actually in the 2015 World Cup.
yeah, but
He
he
don't the
wasn't a
bowlers
bowler.
had, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
So
got
I'm
some three,
saying,
four wickets, but yeah.
truth be told, the first 360-degree cricketer and the a prominent one at that was Sir Gary Sobers because he evolved his bowling. His batting is something we've already spoken about, needs no introduction. Somebody who ended up scoring 26 test centuries of all things, went way above 200 test wickets, more than 1,000,
235
235 to be precise,
and
was an
1,000 first class
excellent
wickets, over 1,000.
yeah, was an excellent spinner again, spinner, medium pacer, wrist spinner. He
Chinaman,
had
yeah.
Chinaman, a very deceptive googly. Was a great close-in fielder. Would patrol the cover point region very well. Was a very nice outfielder as well. And there were many occasions where against the spin bowling of Lance Gibbs, it would be he, Sir Sobers, who would take the catch. So the scorecard would read batsman dismissed, caught Sobers, bowled Gibbs. So he was the original 360-degree range cricketer, is what
100%.
I have to say.
AB de Villiers is a 360 batter, Dave, but Sir
Yeah.
Garfield Sobers is a 360 player of the game. There's a difference.
There's a greater arc that he commands with respect
100%. 100%.
and not
And
arrogance.
somewhere looking at him only is cricket evolved in the way it has. Because if he was so aggressive in the 50s and 60s, that gave hope to guys like Viv Richards, to Clive Lloyd, to the other openers that West Indies had, Desmond Haynes, and forgetting the other guy, Gordon
Gordon
Greenwich.
Green.
Yeah. So he was like almost he laid the foundation for the West Indies team, the great 70s and 80s team to prosper. Yeah.
Another interesting fact is that 30th March happens to be an interesting date in his career, if not the most successful one. 30th March is when he marked his test debut back in 1954, when he was not yet 18 years of age. And 30th March is when he began his final test match, in which
In
he could score no
1974.
more than,
Yeah.
yeah, in which he could score no more than 20 runs. And I mean, it's just incredible, all that Sir Sobers has gone on to achieve. I wonder if this present generation of West Indian cricketers, with all due respect and sincerity, refer to him at times, go back to the drawing board, sit down with him, have one-on-one, man-to-man talks, try to talk about their weaknesses, try to rectify them under his noble guidance. Does all of that happen or not? I don't know. What I do know is that it was Sir Garfield Sobers who presented the test cap to John Campbell. And once upon a time, even Darren Bravo consulted him, a man who desperately needs to revive his fledgling career, having not made anything sizable or even worthy of consideration in the recent outings against Australia.
So anything more that you would want to add, Dave, to honor this great person?
I just want to say that Sir Garfield Sobers, uh, through his amazing lanky skyscrapers, has elevated the stature of cricket to a level which cannot be matched ever again. Surely there will be more batsmen who will go on to score 365 plus, may even break Brian Lara's record. But to do all these unfathomable things at a time where the financial bandwidth of the sport wasn't at its greatest, where cricket hadn't really evolved in terms of being a very, very um, safe sport to play, when the kind of innovations and technology that we see today hadn't yet arrived in the game. What Sobers has left behind is a legacy of indelible greatness, and the likes of which we shall never see again. And he's one of the last remaining pillars of greatness, the foundation on which the West Indian cricketing structure stood tall for so many years, having being sparked to next level by the famous three Ws, the legendary Rohan Kanhai, Soni Ramadin, the spinner. But it was Sir Sobers and his brilliance which became the fulcrum around which the West Indian team revolved for two unstoppable decades. And as rightly said by Sir Frank Worrell, his captain for many, many years, he was a player of um, dignity and immense skill, one whose potential was boundless. And I think that there's a great lesson in Sir Sobers, a great lesson in humility, a great lesson to have the stomach for a great contest, to fight till the very end, and to be as graceful and dignified a person as you can be despite achieving mountains, rather, despite creating mountains with the bat and ball.
In fact, when Brian Lara reached 375 and broke his record in '94, so Garfield Sobers went to the pitch and hugged him. He was so happy that
Yeah,
only
he
a
was
West
happy
Indian,
instead of,
he was
yeah,
very happy. Only a West Indian could do this, and he was so happy that Brian Lara was the guy who did this.
yeah.
So, guys, that was Dave with his brave and very nice words on Sir Garfield Sobers. For me, when it comes to talking about the legend as parting words, I would just say that he put two words to what the position of an all-rounder meant. Those words were purpose and intent. And through that, he achieved greatness. So that was the legacy of the man. As we celebrate him on his 85th birthday, happy birthday, Sir Garfield Sobers. We love you in India. This is Dave Tyagi and Pranay Rangra signing off with yet another episode of the Quarter Point podcast. Like,
I
share,
just have
subscribe. Yeah,
I
please.
just have one last word. It is a humble request, being a West Indian cricket fan, to each and every present member of West Indian cricket team to kindly revert back to such heroes, because all of you have a legacy to maintain, hopes to carry, imaginations to flower, and a new direction to give to the forthcoming generations. And you come from a land of the three great Ws, Sir Garfield Sobers. There cannot be better inspiration anywhere than in your own land, one which was taken to brave heights by the might of players like Sir Sobers. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for joining me on this episode, Pranay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you soon with another one.